Hey everyone, Vina here. Excuse my voice. It's it's been kind of a little funky for a while, but it's okay. Um, I wanted to call you guys love buckets because honestly, some of you are really truly love buckets. It's funny because I have the ability to pick up impressions, energy behind a simple word, a a look of a person, a picture, whatever. And a lot of you, even saying something very simple as thanks, there's a lot behind that. Like you really mean it. And I pick up on that. And so I just want to say, right back at you guys, okay? The majority, super majority of you are the most loving people I've ever encountered in my life. And it's very much appreciated. And speaking of loving people, I would like to give a shout out and a thanks to a person called Judith. That's all I'm going to say. They know who they are, they know what they've done. A super thank you. Um, I They bless me in ways that I really can't say thanks. So I'm using this to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Much appreciated. And there's another person I'd like to just kind of mention, a person by the name of Rob, who continuously just has a giving, generous spirit, knows the true purpose of generosity. And I think that they should be mentioned also outwardly. Um, and, you guys can, don't worry about who they are. They know who they are. So, and to, like I said, all of you, you guys are, the majority of you are just a loving, you're love buckets, period. I don't care if you like hearing that or not. So I want to make a correction on one of my placements. Last week I talked about Uranus going direct, and I said it in Gemini. Uranus definitely went direct, period. Um, that's a fact, but I said it went direct in Gemini. It's still in Taurus. It will go direct in Gemini in a little bit. So I kind of jumped the gun, but it did go direct. Everything I said in that video is very true. Um, and here's the thing: Uranus going direct in Taurus. Taurus, as you know, is an earth sign, deals with anything earthly matters, which is the actual earth, weather, volcanoes, earthquakes, um, and money. Okay, so Uranus going direct. Uranus is the shock and awe planet. It delivers shock, awe, sometimes violence on a big scale. And since it's still in Taurus, it's going to deliver that kind of shock and awe in those means like the earth, financial, etc. So we've already kind of seen a lot of this with the numerous, not only earthquakes, but volcanoes going on. Um, Now, I something I've been telling you aside from Uranus being in Taurus, I've been warning you guys. Please start being very conservative with your investments, with your money. Have some money on hand, as much as you possibly can. I'm not saying drain your entire bank account, no, but over a couple $100 if you can, just have it on hand, because I do see a little period of time where cash will be the only way we can purchase things for a little period of time. Just a little period of time. But it would behoove you to have that cash. Um, and not only that, just because the financial market is just going to be like almost a seesaw, but then it's just going to kind of flatten bottom out. So just be conservative. And I know this is like the third or fourth time I've mentioned it, but if you do have a 401k, just kind of switch it to more stable um, investments instead of like high risk type. I don't know about the stock market, but if you're investing in the stock market and you want to keep your money in there, great. Um, but tried and true companies or the larger companies or the opposite, maybe just those starting out, you know, you can keep your money in them. But just be, whatever you decide to do, just be very conservative with your money right now. It will be very apparent soon why. Um, Now, I want to say we just had a full moon in Leo yesterday. Okay. And also, Mercury is combust. So I know most of you are not really into astrology, and that's fine. But typically, a full moon will bring an ending to something in conjunction with a beginning. Um, Mercury combust. Mercury is how we think, our consciousness. Mercury combust means it's really not in a good place. So that combined with the full moon, it's like our thinking, especially yesterday, and the effects will last for a couple more days, but it just tend to bring our emotions and our thinking and things, boom, like we couldn't ignore it no matter what. It was in our face. Okay. And to those of you that experience that, um, even though it brought some probably horrible feelings and some not so good emotions, just know this: it brought things up to the surface. So if you can't cut those things out of your life, or you're stuck between a rock and a hard place with you, that's why those things are right here. Literally, it may be moving you to a point to just mentally let it go, give it up, put it on that love train that you guys love to hear about so much. Give it, give it to the energy of love. Let love work it out. It may have been so to the point where you realize I can't do with this anymore. This situation, these emotions, I just can't. I'm here. I'm up to here with it. Okay? That served its purpose, even though it brought up probably a lot of ugh and a lot of ugh. Give it up. Release it. Release it. And you will be amazed at how that simple act will not only free you from the turmoil, the stress, etc., but now you can actually see the effects. You will be able to see the effects of love working things out in the right way. Okay? It's like been fighting against, in quicksand, right? And hopeless, getting nowhere. Time to do something different with it. Okay? So it's in your face for that reason. Give it to the energy of love. Throw it, dump it on that love, that divine love train. Okay? And let love deal with all the intricacies that's involved. Because sometimes what the moon does, it will bring up stuff that especially the full moon, that seems so bloody impossible on our level to deal with, work with, fix, resolve, that it's almost like a hopelessness attached to it. Like there's literally no hope. But that's just from your perspective, right? And so, as long as you keep trying to work it in that same perspective, it's going to keep seemingly hopeless, helpless, unresolvable, impossible. Okay. But through the wider ends of love, which encompasses everything, right? It's like having I wish I had one now, but it's like having a balloon that's not blown up. That's how you're looking at your issue, your problem, your whatever. But once you put air in that balloon, it expands, right? It expands. And then suddenly you can see more. There's more available to you. There's, you know, oh my goodness. You see things from a different perspective. Okay? Or it's just like being on the ground and then you get on the plane and you go up in the air. On the ground, you only see just a little bit. When you're up in the plane, oh my gosh, you see like the whole horizon. Okay? Giving it to the energy of love will expand that. Love is expansive anyway. Divine love. All right? So I just had to mention that for everyone that felt that energy and is still feeling it. You ready to burst your head wide open? Psh, time to let it go. That's the universe helping you, forcing you to let it go. All right? So, oh, something funny I wanted to mention, funny to me. I told you guys a while ago I have very heavy Capricorn placements. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Okay, Saturn, amongst other things, is the planet that rules over karma. Okay, so I told you guys that typically when you mess with those with that's a Capricorn or has heavy Capricorn placements, the karma usually is kind of swift and a little severe. So there were a bunch of accounts that were mimicking me on TikTok, and people started reporting them. And everyone else that I've heard on TikTok say, "Oh, these accounts are mimicking me. TikTok does nothing. Ugh, it's so frustrating." Well, I received a notice. I was totally shocked. One of the Uranus going direct things. That two of the accounts that were mimicking me were permanently banned, and not only that, they banned the actual email accounts of those people. It looked like they did like a double duty thing. So, yeah, it's real. Saturn karma, it's real. Not to mention that for those astrologers out there, I do have Saturn in the 11th house, and the 11th house rules, you know, the social world out there. So you know what that means. But that's just a little side note to the astrologers out there. So, I wanted to do some questions real quickly. And then I wanted to do a few predictions that people have asked about. And so one of the questions was, why was Hiroshima allowed for us to drop the atomic bomb? So I waited a while to answer this because I needed to get the right answer. And it finally came through very clear, very precise. And it said that, yes, although it was deadly and horrific and took many lives, um, and those lives did agree to be there at that time. But had that bomb not been dropped at that time, there would have been many more wars and many more deaths would have occurred. Okay? It's sort of like put a check on the violence. Not that there hasn't been wars since then, because of course there has, but nowhere on the scale or level that it would have been. Because what that did was it's like everyone after that started developing nukes, and so think about it. There has not been a nuke on that level since, right? And so, yes, many people have died in wars, but nothing like it would have been, because war on a mass scale like that is not supposed to be. Okay, so that is why that the Hiroshima was allowed. And after I got that and thought about it, I'm like, oh my God, that makes perfect sense in on all levels. So the second question was, is EM, and you all know who that is, the president in chief or the wannabe president in chief, whatever. Is he trying to take over the world? Will he succeed? Yes to the first, absolutely not to the second. So he is also a necessary wrinkle in our history, and he actually does have a purpose, even though it's a negative one. But this is not a planet for worldly domination. Okay, this is not the planet for that. No one will be ruler of Earth. There are planets where there's a so called overall type of ruler. This is not it. It's not set up that way. It's just not to be. Just because he has aspirations for that, doesn't mean it's going to happen. A lot of people have aspirations to be a millionaire, just never happens. Why? Because it's just not for them. It's not supposed to happen. Okay. So um yes, he's doing a lot of damage. Um and a lot of harm temporarily right now, and the effects will be felt for a little while. However, that also will turn around and change. Um, Elon, as well as Don the Khan, is there to show this country and the world what we do not want. Okay, what we don't want and what we don't value. And here's another thing. Um, the United States, so I just talked about the world, but the United States was set up for overall democracy. Okay, that's just in the cards for the United States. That's something I saw during my time I spent in the void, and I talk about the void in my first book. But that's just something that the United States was set up for. That there are countries that were set up for their own karmic purposes, right? I have a chapter in the first book called North Korea. Very interesting. And, if you haven't read the book, and if you do plan on getting it, you should definitely read that chapter. There are countries set up to deliver karma and a certain lifestyle and a certain way, and that will not be changed. The United States was not set up for a dictatorship, um, an authoritarian type of rule. Okay. And so this is where, although forces are so trying to get it that way, it's not set up that way, and it's just going to fail. Um, and in a sense, um, if you think about it, there are less and less people now that support this, and that's really what what the universe wants. When enough of the mass have the understanding of valuing freedom, that's exactly when things will change in freedom's way. And don't forget about Pluto being in Aquarius now. Okay, Pluto's a generational planet. We just got through it being in Capricorn, idolizing money, greed, big corporations, right? Okay, we just went through that 18, 19-year period. Now Pluto's in Aquarius, humanity, um, community, higher consciousness, technology serving the people. Okay, that's what we're in for the next 16 years. Okay, authoritarian Aquarius does not do authoritarianism. It doesn't do it. Okay, the vibe is just not there for it. So Uranus will at some point just swoop in and do its unexpected, major, violent, whatever it does. And it's hard to predict Uranus, I tell you. It's really hard to predict Uranus. So I hope that answers that question. Okay. Uh, yeah, it's ugly, and it's going to be ugly for a little bit, but um, after all the dust settles and after all the confusion and all the whatevers settles, okay, things are going to be different, but in a better way. In a better way. All right. So, next question. Why do some people see hell in their near death experience? I have said repeatedly the spiritual realm does not, there is no hell. Okay. And I don't retract, I'm sticking with that. There is literally no hell, but there are reasons why people may see hellish conditions. Number one, it could be their conditioning, how they were either brought up thinking, expecting the other side to be a heaven and a hell. Okay. Number two, there are different levels in the spiritual realm. I also talk about this in my second book, but there are different levels in the spiritual realm. Okay. And the spiritual realm, just imagine that every person, there's a level for every person's spiritual progress, spiritual level. Okay. So if you are at a certain level, and you don't have to be like, you don't have to know God or be religious or none of that, or even believe in the afterlife to have like a high spiritual level, because the knowledge of God doesn't mean that just because you have knowledge of God doesn't mean that you are highly spiritual. I mean, think of how many people that if you've gone to church are some of the, they're in church and they're some of the worst people that you know, right? Um, they're just ugly as far as the inside goes. And they know about God, but it means nothing. So a knowledge of God, a knowledge of the other side doesn't mean anything in regards to what level you go to in the spiritual realm. It depends on the level of integrity you have, spiritual integrity. In other words, do you desire goodness over anything? Do you desire love over everything? Do you care about your fellow man? Are you genuinely concerned? Do you have compassion? That is spiritual integrity. Okay, so the people that you could have an atheist, okay, that can go to the other side, have an NDE, near death experience, and because they have a good core, they have that spiritual integrity, they may go to a beautiful realm in the spiritual world. Whereas that person that's in church, excuse me, who's just fake and, you know, is not particularly a good person, doesn't have that good core, right? Like these Christian nationalists today, they're fakers. They're phony and they're fakers. Um, they're going to see the level that they are at. And to them, it's going to seem like hell. It will seem like hell. Okay? Just like if you have a person who has done some not so great good things throughout their life, they've succumbed to evil. Okay? They are going to get that same exact energy on the other side because that's the level that they're at. Okay, so the level that you're at, the level that you see, has nothing to do with you knowing about God, you not knowing about God, knowing about the spiritual world, not knowing whether you've been to church 100 times, not been to church, done the rosary, the this, read the Quran, blah blah. None of that has zilch to do with that. Zilch. Okay, it is what is in your core. And remember, you can lie to everyone around you, but you cannot fool the universe. The universe only vibrates and is aware of the true energy of a person. And the energy that you emit, okay, depends on your level of integrity, of goodness, of kindness. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question. And that's not saying that everybody who experiences sort of a lower level is not necessarily a good person, because some people are shown the lower levels for a reason. And that's very important too. They're shown those lower levels for a reason. Um, I was shown, but not affected by some of those lower levels. Okay. Um, but they're also cascading lower levels. There's just not like a bad, horrible, bad, good, great. No, there's like cascading levels. All right. The universe is limitless, has no limits. Constantly unfolding, constantly expanding, constantly in flux. Okay. But with love. Love, 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 love. Believe it or not. Someone asked me about Social Security. Will they touch Social Security? So I see a bubble around Social Security. What that means, I believe, is that they're going to be touching probably Medicare, Medicaid, bunch of other stuff, but there seems to be still a bubble, a protection around Social Security. And here's another thing I want to mention. And here's another prediction. Um, don't think that all these horrible decisions and changes that EM and Don the Con are doing are just going to affect the middle class. No, it's going to branch out and affect big corporations, your congressmen, your senators. It's going to affect them. And some of them, it's going to almost wipe them out. And when that happens, that's going to be the start of when we're going to start seeing the pushback. Okay. Now, already we've seen a detraction of a few congressmen going against Trump. And I told you guys before, probably end of last year, the enemy of our enemy will become our friend. And that's already starting. It's not so visible right now, but mark my words, it will become more and more visible. Okay? And also, they're going to realize very quickly that those cuts that they're making to the other social net programs are going to have a ripple, horrible effect on the economy and something that they just didn't think about or perceive. Okay. But there's a lot that's going to be going on. So just let the smoke and all that, just it's still smoky, still smoky, still smoky, but it's going to settle. It really is going to settle. It really is. Ukraine. I know that Don the Khan said that he was withdrawing support from Ukraine, um, and that he's basically going to hand it over to Russia. That's not going to happen. The EU is definitely will step up. And I'm just wondering, when I saw Norway, do you remember I told you guys something about watch Norway? Steel, strength, strong. I'm just wondering if they're going to be the ones who are going to be the backbone in that. I'm not 100% positive yet, but the European Union will definitely have Ukraine's back, and that war is definitely going to come to an end. You know, the problem with Don the Khan is that he thinks that the United States, that's just it. Like, we just live in a United States of the world. Like, the United States is the world. That's not it. His view is very limited. So he'll be in for a rude awakening um, for as long as he's around. Okay, I'm asked about, a lot of people have asked me about England. I don't know much about UK politics, although I lived there for years. But at the time I was there, I just wasn't paying attention to their politics because I couldn't vote. And so I just wasn't, I was a lot younger. Um, but I will say this: I know I looked up who is the prime minister, and it's a Keir Starmer. Hope I said his name right. I'm not sure how their parties equate to us, but I do have a feeling, in a sense, that he is part of a more progressive, liberal type of a party that we have here in the States. They may even be a little bit more so than we are. That's what my sense is telling me. And I haven't heard any news about him. So I'm sure that, my lovely people across the pond can, fill in the blanks for me. But it seems like there's a lot of things that they're throwing at him. And I see like this big cloud of confusion around him, because a lot of stuff that he's been accused of, most of it is like false, not true, or it's been twisted in such a way. Um, it seems like the wing really wants control over Europe, and they're attacking the European nations um, bit by bit, and he's part of that. He's part of that. For some reason, I just see a lot of what they're throwing at him is just not true. And even if he doesn't stay around, I believe the party that he belongs to will, or still have a majority, if that makes sense. Um, because people will sort of wake up and be like, no, no, we're not for, we're not going to do the lies anymore. We're seeing things differently, So that's kind of what I get on England, or the it is England because the UK is basically Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and Britain. But I understand that he just rules the British part of it, and then each one of the others have their own leader, ruler. So I just see it staying more liberal. I hope he survives all these attacks. He may, but if he doesn't, I still see the liberals, the progressives rather, or whatever they're called. Um, and forgive me for putting it in my terms that I'm seeing it. Okay, if that's not the real case, please don't take offense to that. But I just see, the progressive or liberal party still being very mm, forceful and like sort of in the majority, if that makes sense. Um, okay, and I think that's basically it for now. I can hear my voice getting a little bit more and more hoarse. So take care, guys. Hopefully, I'll be on soon if I can keep my voice from just completely going away. And thanks for tuning in. It's always appreciated. And until we see each other again.